Awesome. All right. I'll make another announcement, but I'll get you started. For the workplace, maybe? Okay. We could probably do that. All right. Is everybody ready? Okay, Mikey, you'll be the clicker guy. Okay, so Mikey's the clicker helper today.
Just space bar? Forward,
Yep.
backward? Yep.
Okay. So, yep. All right. There's not a lot. All right, everyone. We'll get started or continue, I guess, with your day. This is Miss Melissa Mulhollan. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Remember, have patience. God is
Have
there.
patience, yes.
Okay.
God is with us. Have patience. You're right. Now you're
He
breaking
broke
things.
it. No, that was the guy yesterday.
I'll put a word order.
Yes.
All right, everyone. This is Melissa Mulhollan, and she is going to be doing a presentation. I thought that rather than break today up and everything like that, do a motivational one to start us off, because then we go into active shooting this afternoon and safety. So I thought we'll do grants, motivation, safety, and active shooting. That's a great day right there. All right. So I will hand it over to Melissa. And then when we are done with this one, that we will have, I said lunch will be done today. We are going to have that in the cafeteria to make your own chicken salads and everything again. You guys can eat in the cafeteria, or if you guys want to go to your rooms, you're able to do that as well too, okay? All right, well, I'll hand it over to Miss Melissa, okay?
So good morning, everybody. I know that you all were mandated to be in the auditorium for this presentation. It wasn't voluntary. So, and I see, just like classroom, kids in the bathroom, nobody wants to venture up front. I just want to thank you for being with me today, even though you were mandated to do so, because I know your time is very valuable. I'm a teacher also, and I'm sure you're sitting there thinking there are so many other things you could be doing with your time instead of listening to me. I'm also sure your stomach is rumbling after she talked about what you're going to be having for lunch. You're probably like, let's drop this up, lady. I really want some chicken salad. So I understand all of those things. If you can be kind enough to give me your attention and your time for just a little bit, I think that I will give you some information that will be of value to you. So first of all, she introduced me. My name is Melissa Mulhollan. Some of you already know me. I teach English at Jeff Tech, and I have been there for almost 30 years. 29.5 to be exact. I'm not counting down those last 5.5. I actually am very passionate about what I do, and I'm looking forward to seeing what I can come up with for the next 5.5 years. So I wrote a book. The book's called Coaching Classroom. What is in the book? The book is about how to incorporate life coaching techniques in the classroom setting. So why did I write this book? Well, first of all, I became a life coach first. And you don't have to be a life coach to be able to incorporate these different techniques in the classroom setting. You can just use some of the information from it to make your classroom and your own lives a lot better. So what happened was, the reason that I actually became a life coach and did all of this is because I was constantly trying to come up with better lessons for my students. I wanted to make sure that they understood the material. I wanted to make sure that my lessons were valuable, and pretty much they were, but they were like pits all the time, even keel, right? So you have the same results year after year, varying slightly. And I wanted my students to grow exponentially. And I kept trying to come up with these great lessons. I'd be like, okay, I know this lesson, and what I had scripted that I revamped is going to do it this year. And at the end of the year, I would look at how many students had A, B, C, D, E, or F's. And then I would also look at, the standardized test results. I'd look at the final exams, and pretty much the results were the same, no matter what I was doing. So I thought, what do I need to do to make change in my classroom? And for whatever reason, I had this little epiphany that it wasn't that the kids couldn't learn the information, it's that they didn't realize they could do it. Their self-worth was lacking. So if you teach elementary school kids, okay, or if you have the straight A students, you're probably listening to me and saying, well, she's talking about those CD kids that, really need that boost to get to where they need to be. Not at all. I'm talking about any child at any given time at any level. Your own children that you coach, children that you, teach in Sunday school, children in your classroom, whoever you encounter can benefit from this. Because I think we can all recognize that anxiety and self-worth is desperately lacking in our students. Now, we can talk about why that is. Even if the kid's getting straight A's, doesn't matter. We can all talk about why that's happening, and we can come up with a myriad of different contributing factors. But the point of the matter is, it is. Even a straight A student has some self-esteem issues. So how can you fix some of those self-esteem issues? What can you do to try to make a difference? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you too is I'm not here to tell you that everything that you're doing in the classroom is wrong and everything I'm doing is right. And if you read my book, if you incorporate everything, your life will be so much better. I do believe that if you incorporate some of the techniques that I tell you about, then you will have some positive changes in both your life and your professional life. I do believe that. But is it 100% foolproof? Absolutely not. And you have to gauge what's going to work for you based on your own personality, based on your ability level and your comfort level, and your students as well. I mean, even with academic lessons, I've come up with a fantastic lesson, and I taught it to my first period class, and I walk out, they walk out of the room for the day, and I'm like, yes, got it, right? And then fifth period rolls around, and you teach the same lesson, and it's a hot mess. You at the end of the day, you're standing there going, what happened? Well, any number of things could have happened. You know, it's the last period of the day. Maybe something exciting happened at lunch and they couldn't focus. Maybe it's their personalities or their ability levels. Or maybe it's even you. Maybe you got some bad news, throughout the day and you didn't really teach correctly or the same way you would have. Maybe what you gave first period, you couldn't give fifth period because you had something else on your mind. There's any number of variables that can change the way we do things in our success level in the classroom. So you want to make sure that you're tailoring things to what works best for you. So, our plates are already full. So, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, this is nice, lady, but if you think I'm going to add one more thing to what I have to do, you're out of your mind. I get that. I absolutely get that. I have sat through in-services where people have come in and told me, you should be doing all of these wonderful things, and if you did, all of your problems would be solved. And I'm not telling you that either. I know your plates are full. I know that adding one more thing can actually make you just totally shut down. But if you use some of the techniques that I give you, it's not about adding more to your plate. It's actually about getting you to a place where you don't have to do as much work with discipline. You don't have to do as much work with motivating them. When you add some of the coaching techniques, you're going to see a natural change that maybe lessens some of the other things that you have to do. So, we are also very stressed out in our profession. Our profession has changed drastically, and I'm glad she brought up the active shooter training because, education has changed a lot in the past 5 years, right? But over the past 30 years, okay, when I went to Clarion University, we'd go down into the basement of the library, and there were 3 computers there. And you were lucky if you could get a computer. And there were only 3 because A, they were very expensive, and B, they were so huge that that's all they had room for down in the basement of the library. So now, if you had told me that my grade book was going to be on a computer, that we were going to be teaching through computer or through my phone, I would have never believed you. If you had told me that we were going to have metal detectors at our front door, we do, unfortunately, at Jump Tech, and that we were going to have active shooter drills, I would have never believed you. So the face of education has changed. We need to change along with that. But with that change can cause a lot of stress and anxiety for us, right? Because more and more, we don't just come into the classroom anymore. 30 years ago when I taught, all I did was teach English. Not granted, I made connections with students and that type of thing. But I feel like more and more, I was just talking to AJ about all of the things he has to do. He's taking care of the bell system. He's taking care of all kinds of things. He's running an Iceland trip with me in 2023 with our students. We're being asked, and we volunteer for some of it as well, but we're recharge and come back and get ready for the school year. And so refreshing and reminding yourself that you need to change yourself if you want to see change is a good thing. It's a positive thing. And it was something that took me a very long time to figure out as well, because I kept thinking, well, if only my students would do this, if only my administration would do that, if only my husband would do this, then I would be happy, or then I could do this. No, it all hinges on you. You're giving your power away to other people when you do that. Now, when you talk about refreshing yourself too, I want you to think about successful entrepreneurs. They have a top 10 list of books that you should read if you want to be successful. They should read on a list of 10 books. One of them is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. There's a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor. He is successful and rich. He is in his 80s. He still works. And he is supposedly worth over $20 million. He has read the book Think and Grow Rich over 20 times. Why? Because it's just that slow to pick things up? No. Because he understands that in order for him to continue working at the age of 80, to continue growing, and to continue being successful, that he has to refresh himself. That he has to, in order to keep his energy level up here, he has to read that information and remind himself the same thing over and over again. So even if you already know that the only person you can change is yourself, it doesn't hurt to hear that again. And that brings me to the next point. Self-care. I want you to think very carefully about what you do to take care of yourself. Because to be honest with you, I think teachers are some of the worst people when it comes to taking care of yourself. You are. Just like nurses, doctors, anybody in that caring or caregiving profession, we have a tendency to put everybody else's needs in front of our own. And we're kind of taught that at an early age, right? Be nice to others. Do this, do that. Put this person first. You shouldn't be selfish. That's being selfish. There's a balancing act here. And a lot of the time, in the midst of that balancing act, we fail to take care of our own basic needs. And I'm going to tell you something. The best thing that I ever learned through my life coaching class is that I needed to take care of me before anything else was going to work well in my life. The best thing I ever did for my students, self-care. Best thing I ever did for my family was self-care for me. Now, maybe you're conjuring up images of going and getting massages once a week, or spending 4 hours out on the golf course, and you're thinking that's what self-care is. I'm not talking about that elaborate, and you know what that looks like for you, because some of you, again, the stress and the amount of time that you have to give is going to vary, especially if you have your own little ones at home or you're busy with your own family. But it's so important for you to take that time for yourself. And we are guilted very easily as teachers too, right? Do it for the kids. That's all they have to say to us. Oh, if you would just we need somebody to do this for the kids, and you're like, all right, I'll do it. You know you don't have the time, and you know that you need to be taking time for yourself, and that you can't add one more thing to your plate, but you do it because that's in our nature. But the best thing you can do for your students is to take care of yourself. What does that look like? I don't care if it's you blasting the music, and yes, I will rock out to sleep. I don't care if you're blasting music in your car and singing the whole way to work, obnoxiously loud and bad. I'm really glad nobody's in the car with me, because it would be scary. And I know I drive by people and they look at me like, but I'm okay with that, okay? I am really glad that they now have the hands-free talking and stuff, because I hope, when I go by certain cars, I'll pretend like I'm really just talking, I'm actually singing. So those kinds of things have worked out for me, so I don't look as crazy when I'm in the car singing. But it could be as simple as singing a song, okay? It could be as simple as waking up in the morning and giving yourself some kind of positive affirmation. Get up, stretch. The thing that I used to do all the time is I'd hit the snooze button over and over again, and I go, oh gosh, why do I have to get up? I'm so tired. And that's not a good start to the day. You're not starting your day with intention. You're not setting yourself up for success. when you do that. And I go, oh, why did I pick a job that makes me get up early? I'm not a morning person. And I'm high maintenance. Okay? Clearly, this doesn't just happen. All right? So I have to get up super duper early to get ready for work. And so, like I said, I used to use the snooze button all the time. Now I will get up with my alarm. I will sit on my bed instead of just jumping up and running. I sit on the edge of my bed, and I do what Oprah Winfrey does. And I just say, thank you. Because I could complain that I have to get up in the morning and go to work, or I could be thankful that I have a job to go to. It's how you look at things. And I know you've heard this before, but you need the reminders because all of us do. I know meditation's good. Did I slack on my meditation this year? Sure I did. Until I read something about meditation and realized how valuable it was, and then went back to that practice. Okay? So hearing these things and knowing these things and being reminded that it's important for you to do those types of things is extremely important as part of self-care. When you go into, I stretch when I get up to just taking off and running. So I have a tendency to, I'm always scrambling. So now I just sit on the edge of the bed and I stretch. And I go into the bathroom and I'm, got hair everywhere. I look in the mirror and I'm like, today's going to be a great day. And it feels like a lie initially, especially if you know you've got that really difficult class coming, or you've got that parent-teacher conference, or maybe you have an in-service that you're not so sure about, whatever the case may be. You feel like you're lying to yourself because you know your day's jam-packed. But when you start your day out with intention, that's part of your self-care. Tell yourself, you look great. You're fantastic. Compliment yourself. It's okay to do that. We've been told that makes us egomaniacs. It doesn't. It makes you appreciate who you are. You have to tend to yourself before you can tend to anybody else's needs. Now, what does that look like? Incorporating positivity into your life. There's so much negativity in the world, right? And even news broadcasts have started to recognize the importance of putting something positive on there. I mean, the Today Show now has those morning boosts. Lester Holt will have some kind of positive story that he puts on the news too. But we are inundated with negativity. You have to take time for yourself. And I know some of you are going, oh, okay, if you figure out how to do that, Ms. Mulhollan, you let me know. But I had a friend who was saying, I have no time for myself. I have absolutely no time for myself. I'm like, okay, brand new teacher, trying to learn everything. And then she comes in the other day and she said, yeah, they couldn't find anybody to work the concession stand, or to be in charge of the concession stand for the football game, so I said I would do it. Not that we don't need to volunteer. Volunteering is great. Helping out in church, helping out in the community, all of those things are very important. And they can also be therapeutic. They can be part of our self-care. I did a walk for suicide awareness. That was part of my self-care. A, I was exercising, and B, I was doing something for the greater good. Now, you have to decide what that looks like for you and what time you have. But, when I have little ones, I do not find a lot of time for self-care. And my time would be like just soaking in the tub, 20 minutes to just defrag. And at one point, everybody's coming to the bathroom. My kids are running in, little, the dog's on the side of the tub trying to drop the toy in. I'm like, what is happening? My husband's coming in going, hey, mom's on the phone. I'm like, I left my phone out of the bathroom for a reason, okay? I'm in here, and I didn't lock the door. My fault, maybe, but they would have been banging on it anyway, right? So, I'm fortunate enough that I do have somebody to help me out, my husband, and I said, hey, I just need 20 minutes. I just need 20 minutes. And at first I felt guilty because I was away from my kids all day, right? I'm away from my dog all day. And there's only that little limited window by the time you get home before you have to eat and throw the laundry in or run to this T-ball or whatever it is you're doing, and then they have to go to bed, and you're thinking, oh, should I take that 20 minutes? Maybe you have to take it once they go to bed. But maybe you need that 20 minutes. Maybe you have a really rough day. You need that 20 minutes before you can be your best for your family. Take it. Take it if you can do it. Take it if you can do it. Now, how will that help you in the classroom? Because you end up role modeling those behaviors. when you start doing some things that are positive for you, maybe gratitude is something, okay? Yes, we use our manners in the classroom, but sometimes when a kid will say, Miss Mulhollan, could I eat this snack? I usually say, thank you for asking, but no, you may not. Sometimes my answer is no, but I still thank them for asking. May I sharpen my pencil? Yes, thank you for asking instead of just interrupting my lesson. You know, whatever it is, thank you for picking that paper up and throwing it away. The more I started to say those types of things, or the more they started seeing me do that type of thing, then they would start doing it. There's a video, and it's a little black and white video that's like 17 minutes long on YouTube. It's called Validation. And it was good for my class because I teach English, and it helped me do a lesson with English. It was on multiple meaning words, but then it also talked about the importance of positive affirmations. There's a danger in just waiting for other people to give you positive affirmations instead of giving them to yourself. But at the end of the video, I started saying to the kids every day when they come into my classroom, you are great, you are awesome, you are amazing. Kind of like if you watched the movie Help or read the book, right? She said that to the little girl. He was kind, he was smart, he was important. Okay? I say that to my students every day. And at first I thought, they don't care. They think this is ridiculous. And then so there was a couple days that I got interrupted at the beginning of the period or whatever, and I didn't say it. And I had students go, Ms. Mulhollan, you've got to tell us your grade. Wow. How many extra minutes of your time does that take? A couple seconds, right? Makes all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. The other thing that my students started doing, modeling of the behaviors, when I would say that to them, some of them would actually say back to me, you will too. In the mornings, I'm stationed outside that front door, which I can't stand because I hate the cool air coming in and at me all the time, but I'm trying to be positive, right? So I bundle up, I'm standing there, and I start saying, the kids are dragging in like this, okay? Some of them have earbuds in, so they can't hear me, but I'm pretty loud anyway, as you can see with my microphone. Pretty good, right? So I would say, good morning, how are you? Thank you for coming to Jeff Tech today. And they would look at me like I was literally crazy. And yeah, I am to a degree, because I think you have to be if you're an educator, right? So I would say that to them. And sometimes a teacher would come up and they would start talking to me, and they're coming in and they said, hey, Miss Mulhollan, good morning, good morning. They started saying it back to me instead of waiting for me to say it to them. If I was missing them, they were saying hi to me. So you start to see some really positive behaviors coming from your students when you start incorporating some of this. Does it take a little bit of time away from the curriculum? Maybe. Is it something a little extra that you do? Sure. But it makes a huge difference in how students feel. When a student is in the right frame of mind, it can help them learn the lesson better. If they're worried about what's going on at home, if they're worried about their drama with their friends, and I'm not saying all that's going to go away. There's no one size fits all. There's no solution. If I had a solution to that, I would be probably sipping my ties at some tropical island right now, enjoying the fruits of my labor. Okay? I don't have one size fits all. But I can tell you that I have seen huge results in the discipline, the personalities, and the overall test scores and success of my students. I had more students pass once I started incorporating life coaching techniques in the classroom than I ever did before. My test scores went up 8% the first year, 9% the next year, and then they leveled out because we had different people teaching the 10th grade students as well too, so there's other variables. But my test scores went up. My students were more positive. I won Teacher of the Year at Jeff Tech. They have all of these things made a huge difference. And sometimes it's just, you don't know that you're making an impact. It's the same with our lessons, right? In the classroom, sometimes we're blessed enough to have students come back and say, well, you really made a difference in my life. But I was getting more immediate feedback too. I had students write me little notes at the end of the year. Thank you so much, you really saved me. Just by saying you were great, you were awesome, you were amazing. Just by smiling more, just by using more gratitude. There's so many other things that I did as well. I think it's positivity in the classroom. Here are some things that I do. I incorporate laughter. Okay? Laughter is such a positive thing. I will sometimes show little clips, animal clips, baby clips. You know, they're great. You can find all kinds of just little clips like that. It's a great start. It's a morning boost or an afternoon boost to start your classroom off the right way. Another thing I do is I tell jokes. The jokes are hard because if you have older students, it's hard to find jokes that are going to make them laugh that are appropriate for class. But I have actually found a whole ton of them. And I can start off the day with a joke too. I also stand at the door and I smile. Okay, I don't care what kind of a mood or what kind of a day I'm having. If I'm standing at the door going, or I'm not standing at the door, welcoming them. You know, you're setting the tone for the day. You're setting, you know, if you were coming in here today and I was standing by that door and I was like, and maybe you were like that anyway, but the point of the matter is, if you would know right away that it wasn't going to be a positive experience. You want to be welcoming, you want to smile, okay? Vision boards. I also incorporate vision boards in my classroom. I give them a piece of cardstock. The students actually write down a whole bunch of goals that they have, short-term goals, long-term goals, and then I bring in a whole bunch of magazines, I print things off for them on the internet, or they print them themselves. They can draw, they can bring three-dimensional items, and they make their own vision board. And at the beginning of class every day, we take, while I'm doing attendance, or sometimes I will look at my own vision board to roll along the behavior, but while we're taking attendance, I will, they listen to like a YouTube song that's like supposed to relieve stress and anxiety for like 3 minutes, and they silently look at their vision boards. So we start the day off that way, and then I tell them a joke, I say, you were great, you were awesome, you're amazing, and then we start class. So those few extra minutes that we're taking away from the curriculum, we have 8-minute class periods. Okay, so I do have a longer class period than some of you do, but I will tell you that I would rather spend that time getting them ready to learn and getting that positive 55 minutes of hard work out of them, as opposed to just jumping right into everything and constantly having to growl and say, come on guys, come on guys, come on guys, because I find that they will settle down and work better for me when I start the class period off that way. Just breathing correctly. Just taking those 3 deep breaths. They teach you to do that. We don't breathe correctly. And when we start feeling stressed or anxious, you might want to use that this year. You just take those 3 deep breaths in through your nose very slowly, and then you slowly release it through your mouth. And if you're in a place where you can do what she's doing, that helps ground you, like those weight blankets they talk about. That can help relieve stress and anxiety. You feel like you're really like, oh my gosh, you know, the Delta variant of what we've just been through with COVID and the uncertainty of the school year, we're all very stressed. And some of us don't even recognize it. So it's important for you to make sure that you are taking those deep breaths, role modeling that behavior. You can also show students how to do that as well. And then I have my students keep a gratitude journal, and they would write down 3 things that they were grateful for each day, and they would compliment themselves. And so I actually had a student who's been out of school now for 5 years tell me when I ran into her that she still does that. Every night before she goes to bed, she writes down 3 things that she's grateful for. So not only are some of these things that you're doing in the classroom going to help them now, but it will help them when life gets thrown at them. I'm not telling you things that mean that if you do all of these practices, you're never going to have any problems and you're never going to have any stress. You still will. But you're better able to handle it. You have the equipment, you're rested, you feel better, and you're able to let go of it a lot faster than if you didn't have these tools. So another thing that I do is I have these jars that I put together, and I put 2 together. I don't know if anybody's interested in them or not. If you want to make a donation and have one, you can. I made these specific for DCC because I made them in red and blue. But they're jars that have positivity quotes in them. And if you're a science teacher, you could do quotes from all scientists, and you can use it as a discussion. Maybe maybe you're a math teacher, you want to get something from all these can use those types of things. You could talk about it. What do you mean, those who don't believe in magic? Have that conversation with your students. My students sometimes will actually raise their hand and say, Mr. Hall, what's this quote mean? And then we talk about it. We use that as a lesson. So you can do this type of thing. I have a couple of these, and I can make some more. I can do at the end of the session here today. But that's something that you can do too. It takes a little bit of time to do that. This is a little more time consuming because you have to get the jar, you have to look up the quotes, you have to make sure that the quotes are appropriate. John Wayne did a quote to Barbara Walters that says, "Don't let the leap get you down," which, funny quote, but not appropriate for school, right? So when you're copying and pasting those, you really do have to take some time to read through them, make sure that they're appropriate. Dorothy by Bill Cosby, Robin Williams, those are things that maybe you probably don't want to use their quotes. So you have to kind of pick. It does take some time. I have over 125 quotes. I have over 125 quotes in there. Do it once or twice, you got it for the year, right? So those are some of the things that I do to incorporate positivity in the classroom. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have anything that they do in the classroom that they'd like to share? Yes. That's great, because then you can make those connections and have those conversations with them, because it is about connecting with them, right? When they feel trust with you and you connect with them, they will perform better for you academically and behaviorally if you make those kind of connections. I used to do that too. Before we had tutors, I would give out little cards, and I had a student, I said, "Tell me something unique about you." And then one kid wrote down, "I don't eat green food." And it just so happens that we were in freshman orientation. This little girl comes up to me and she said, "Hi, my name is," and she told me her name. And I turned and looked at her dad and I said, "You don't eat green food." I had his daughter in class and I remembered that about him. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you remembered that." But it's just something that's simplistic. So that's a great example of getting to know kids and something really. Because a lot of you are probably putting great practices in place, but maybe you don't even know what the other person's doing. I was shocked to find out some of the things that my colleagues were doing that I didn't know they were doing. That, I was like, that's such a great idea. But, you need to maybe share some of those things. Maybe after this, if you're doing something and don't want to share it out loud today, you could just fire it off to everybody and say, "Hey, in regard to what Ms. Mulhollan said, this is something that I do in my classroom." And don't think it's silly. Don't say, "Wow, share it." Because you never know. Somebody might say, "Oh, that's a really great idea. I don't want to do that," but it may give them an idea that they can spin off of as well. So some of the things that I mentioned, you might be like, "Well, we're not going to do breathing exercises, but we're going to do this instead." So, sometimes out of these ideas that you give to somebody come bigger ideas. So, anybody have something else that they want to share? Yes. Yes, getting that feedback from the students is really good too. We do the 7th inning stretch, like we do in baseball, because we have to leave the period too. So, I play the song when we get up and we stretch, and some of the kids they won't. But most of them think it's funny, and I do stretches in front of them. Okay, because sitting there that long period of time. And they're used to, my kids especially, because they're used to moving around a lot in the shops unless they're maybe computer technology read something, it's a true, they say it's a true story, but you know how it is. There was this soldier, a bunch of his classmates went to his funeral, including his teacher, and they had found in his pocket this list of all the nice things that his classmates had to say about him. Because when he was in school, the teacher had everybody write down something nice about the other student, type those lists up and gave them to everybody, and he had it in his pocket as a soldier, writing them reports. So that's how much that meant to him. And while they were talking about it, while the parent was telling the teacher, the classmates were saying that everyone had mine too, putting out their first or whatever. So, Maya Angelou says, people will always, they won't remember what you say, but they'll always remember what you do. And I kind of disagree with that a little bit because what we say does have an impact on how we do. So how do we make our students feel in the classroom? How are we feeling? If you're not feeling your best on a particular day, ask yourself why and what you can do to help yourself so that you can be the best teacher, parent, significant other, whatever the case may be. If you can take away something from this presentation today, I really want you to work on your self-care. I want you to think about what you can do to help yourself every single day. And maybe before you go to sleep at night, maybe before that head hits the pillow. If you're anything like me, once school starts, as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out. I'm less that way. A lot of people I know lay awake at night, not me. So I have to really take a few minutes and I think to myself, okay, what did I do right today? What can I improve on tomorrow? And if I'm going to sleep stressed, grinding my teeth, I need to take a step back, do some self-reflection, figure out what I can do better tomorrow. And I know some people think they don't have enough time in their schedule to do some of the things that I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. Sitting in the car, maybe watching a quick TikTok video that's really funny that makes you laugh. Having some kind of joke pop up on your phone or some type of prayer. I know that they will send those types of things out that you can read right before you, take those 3 deep breaths before your students come in and then be ready for the day. So I really hope that you all have a fantastic school year. I hope that you do practice some self-care, and I hope you remind yourself that you are important, that you have to schedule that time for you. If anybody wants to talk to me anymore, or if you want my contact information, I do have some business cards up here, so if anything is going on during this course of the school year, you want to just give me a call and say, hey, I was doing really great with taking care of myself, and now I'm feeling miserable. I'd be happy to do that. You can fire off an email to me, and maybe tell me some of your ideas, too. Share some of your ideas with me that maybe you didn't feel comfortable sharing today. I also have copies of my book if anybody's interested. I have Change, I Venmo, PayPal, and I also have Positivity quote jars that you can get for $15. If you want, if I run out or more, you're welcome to take the name down. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, guys, so I just absolutely love that. I thought that was something nice, uplifting, going into the school year. I know we're always trying to be positive, but we need to work on ourselves as well, too. I totally agree. T and I work a lot on mental health and our awareness, and you guys know me, my background was majority special ed prior to probably about like 7 years ago, so I think it is very, very important that we take care of ourselves, which is actually goes well into what we're going to do tomorrow, because we always say we don't have enough time, we don't have enough time. Body language is such a huge thing, just even watching you guys here. Some are on our phones, some are playing games, some are actively involved, like to be open to different things and stuff like that is awesome. But we actually are going to go in tomorrow and making us think on what can we take off of our list, because I know we're trying to make everything go. We actually make a stop list that we'll get into tomorrow that when we were in here, you didn't want to smell like. So I love doing this activity with these kids, but sometimes it takes 10 minutes to get them all gathered. And do you really have to do that activity, or is it just like that activity, to go? It really made me think, because I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't have time to do that. I mean, we're all that way. It's like, okay, well, maybe if I stop doing this one, break, you know, you go do stretches or whatever you need to do. You're good. I know you guys been sitting all morning. I hate making you guys sit, but go ahead, enjoy. You guys are good. All right. And they put a stop sign on there. And I'm like, it says that there. I love this activity. It sounds great. They did this like door activity. It's like it's very cool design, but it took them like 20 minutes not touching that one. Don't touch this door. Stop, stay in your corner. Stay, do that. And I'm like, that was 20 minutes. Like, and I'm like, that's not a great activity. I'm like, like, but they use that like a little preschool example. It's like, hey, go to high school. You want to group yourself, like, you know, and stuff like that. Yep. I told you that. You know, this walk, this thing, and I'm just like, no, I wasn't. No, I was not. I was there to be eighth grade and see for a week here. We were getting inspired. And I just like that. I actually love going there for that. I'm like, there's so many, you know, professional but it's usually like uplifting. You know, and I love this like and I'm like, I love it. Oh my God. Oh no.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, new one. Oh, oh my goodness. Thank you very much. So very much. Thank you. I love that one. But I saw that. I'm gonna go to I was like, I'm actually gonna like, yeah, yeah, that's what she said.
I didn't stop it yet, so I'm like standing in front of
It's all good. Yeah, we good to go to turn it off? We good to go to turn it off? You're welcome.